Welcome back, you filthy animals, to Making the Cut, week 2 or 3, depending on how you want to count it. Neil Smith, Lance Exley, we're back. We're here to talk guillotine with you. I know, we're 7 minutes late. I know. Fight me in the comments. I don't care. What were you doing that was so important anyway? For 7 minutes. Most of you are watching this on the toilet. Don't think I don't know. Don't think I don't know what's going on in the background around there. I got all the data in the world that tells me what's going on. Anyway, thank you, kind viewer, for tuning in, and forgive the fact that I'm already surly and we've barely even started. But for anybody who actually follows us regularly, I'm pretty much surly all the time. It's part of my brand. Lance, buddy, how you doing this week? How you doing? Better than most people? Because most people
Oh
aren't doing
yeah.
so good.
Yeah, I mean, some leagues is kind of working out for me. Some leagues is looking a little rougher than I expected, and oddly enough, it's the ones I did not expect to be doing so well in that are looking good, and the ones I expected to do well in are not doing so good. So, typical fantasy year.
That is how that typically works. And thank you, Mike. I appreciate your patience and continued support here in the background as we trundle along here. But yeah, Lance, that is the way that goes. I have a. It's not a guillotine league. I have a dynasty league that I've been in the playoffs for like a million years in a row, and I won it last year, and I was in the finals the year prior, and then it's just nothing. It's just not happening this year.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. So it's been a brutal week. Guillotine or no, pick a fantasy format. It's been brutal. The start to this year for football has actually been really brutal. And I usually warn people about this. Since they changed the offseason schedule a couple years back and started playing games with the preseason and OTAs and things like that, it takes about 4 weeks for the NFL to really kind of not just be schlock in a lot of ways. Because, for example, like I have all kinds of fun, stupid facts. What do you, Lance? Let's see if you know it. What's the second highest point scorer in fantasy football right now?
Like ever or
No,
just
no, no,
this
no, no. I
year?
mean, for this season, what's number two in terms of overall points?
I would have to say Tyreek Hill would be number one. That would
Tyreek
make
Hill is number one. That's correct. What's number two?
that would make Puka number two. It's got to be.
Wrong. Cowboys defense.
Oh, okay. Defense. You
It's a
pulled the
trick question.
defense. You
It's a
pulled
trick
the
question.
defense on me. You pulled
It's
the
a trick
defense on
question.
me.
You think I'm just gonna make it easy?
I mean,
No, that
okay.
would.
We got 20 targets for Puka. Ah, that yeah.
Puka
That
in the top
that
five, by the way.
that's
Puka, it's a lot. It's a good guess because
has to
Puka is
be.
in the top five, by the way.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it's the Cowboys defense. So there
Oh
you go.
wow.
There you go. Yeah,
That's what you get for playing a Zach
I'm
Wilson
glad.
draft.
I'm glad. At least somebody thinks I'm funny. Um, tell my mom. She'll love it. But yeah, that no, I'm not just gonna give it to you. I'm not gonna lob it in there. It's got to be something completely off the wall. But
Got
yeah,
to work
it's the
for it.
Cowboys defense. Just like we all had it. It's how we all drew it up. It's absolutely what that we all called that. That's why we all have nothing but Cowboys defense shares. No, it's just schlock. It's just crap. There's so much crap going on right now. Where, I mean, you got. I mean, think about it this way. I could make the argument to you right now that given the level of injuries that we've dealt with, particularly at running back,
Oh gosh, yeah.
remember how this was meant to be the season of the wide receiver and all the ECR and the experts? They all got their nips all hard for all the wide receivers, and then and you. I could make the argument to you right now that the three most valuable players in fantasy football are CMC, Bijan, and Tony Pollard because of
Yeah.
scarcity. I can
Yeah.
make that argument to you very easily right now. And in fact, I will. Because given opportunity, given the decimation that has occurred at the top end of running back, and I promised the five people that are actually listening to this in the background for guillotine advice, of like 20 people that are probably listening to this total, I will get there. I will. But there's a reason I'm bringing this up is because everybody wanted to make the argument for why you should be targeting wide receiver early. Some good arguments there. But given the way this has played out to this point, I would argue those are the three, given their level of opportunity, given the volume, and given that they are actually healthy, when no one else who plays running back is, those are the three. Those are the three most valuable players in fantasy football right now. Am I wrong? Tell me
No,
I'm wrong. I'll be
well,
more than happy to entertain it.
as always, I would say Travis Kelce is the exception, but that aside,
Already
yeah.
missed a
I
game.
mean, he missed a game, but he's still gonna accumulate more points in the entire season than most would
But
playing
when you're already
double.
eliminated by the time that happens, do you care?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you play it smart, you can stream for 1 week, and then you got your Kelsey back, you got your Blanky back. So you know, hopefully your season did not depend on Travis Kelsey. If
Kel-
it did, I'm sorry, but
Blanky is very accurate. Um,
he is.
yeah, Blanky is a very accurate thing. Uh, but
For
yeah,
fantasy
Lance,
managers and Mahomes.
let's maybe actually do the show that we're meant
Okay.
to do, that we're contractually obligated to do here today. Um, we'll do the actual show and we'll go through it position by position. We'll figure out how to help folks who are still not chopped. Because if you've made it through the first 2 weeks so far,
Oh, you're feeling good.
you got to
You
be,
got to be
because
feeling good.
it should only get easier. I don't know that it could get much harder because we've already taken the training wheels off in like pretty much right out of the gate. This season has showed up like Chuck Norris at your front door and sucker punched your ex. Like it's been unfortunate around these parts. Just all the decimation that has occurred. Running back is a whole thing that I will circle my way back to here. Running back has just been a utter tire fire. But quarterback has also been very challenging. For the three of you who survived Trevor Lawrence this week, congratulations. Because that is what they call in the biz a game ender for a lot of people in the background. That if you lived through that, yeah, you you get to actually you get to puff your chest out a little bit if you survived that particular nine was I think it was about 9 points.
It was 9 point. Yeah,
Yeah,
9 points.
usually spells death. So if you lived through that, congratulations. I think the most meaningful piece of advice is not so much like what do you do if you survived with it? Because if you survived with it, you only have two choices. You play your backup, assuming you have one, or you continue listening to us as we try to help you find a streaming option. Those are your two choices there. I think what's more relevant is for the vast majority of people who got chopped, who went all in on Lawrence, and you could direct your hate mail to just Twitter generally. Just put it out there. That's what that platform is for. Um, they want to start charging you a monthly fee to use Twitter, and I'll be on Waze.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be on Thread because I ain't paying for that. I would not recommend anyone pay for that.
Keeps getting stranger.
Circles the drain a little harder every day.
Yeah.
But Lance, what do you think? What do you and see? I'm so animated that I just moved my camera. Uh, what? Here's what I. Uh, yeah, Mike, don't pay for that. Don't don't pay for that. No one should pay. No one should pay for that. It's not a good plan. I'll tell you what. I'll start my own social media company, and I won't charge anybody for it. And then that's what we'll do. We already have our Discord. I'll just make that free again.
Exactly.
Biz, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say to that. I don't know what else to say to you, man. Like that's that seemed like such a good idea in the preseason. Um, so Lance, what do you think, man? Because I don't know what you do here. You're staring down Lawrence on the waiver wire because the poor SOB who had him got their bell rung. Are you interested? You want to put some fab up for this? It can't possibly get worse, right? How could it get worse?
That's exactly the thing, and you kind of tie it to, Ridley also had a stinker of a game.
Everybody did. Zay
So
Jones had a
yeah,
zero.
yeah. I mean, but you look at the targets that everyone had. It wasn't like, oh, they didn't throw it. It was a tough week
I think they
for the
threw it
Jaguars.
42 times
Yeah.
total attempts.
So, I
42 or
mean,
47. I'm doing that from memory.
yeah. So, I mean, the potential's there. I think, they had a bad week. Now, if you're in dire straits for quarterback and you're throwing a Hail Mary down to Trevor Lawrence to try to come save you, I don't think that's a good strategy. There's definitely people closer to that QB 20 range that I have ranked that could probably have a little bit safer of a floor, but at the same time, I mean, I would probably, if you're allowed to bid $0, I would do that and just see what happens. Just because if you're throwing a Hail Mary out for Trevor Lawrence, you got bigger issues then.
Well, okay, that's fine. Here's where I would gotta go next level on it a little bit. He was absolutely brutal against the Chiefs. Okay,
Mhm.
anyone blessed with the gift of sight or the ability to read could tell you that. Like, and he himself came out and talked about it.
Right.
Here's the silver lining to this lovely little cloud. They play the Texans this week. Okay? So here's where I'm at with this lovely little transaction. I think a lot of people are going to be scared. I think if I had a good quarterback situation and I wasn't desperate at quarterback or anything like that, I'd probably just leave well enough alone and not worry about it too much. But if I needed a streamer because I was thin at quarterback or I had my opportunity here, I'm not going to spend a huge percentage of my fab budget on this in a guillotine league because it's just too risky. But this is the weird thing about it. You could probably get a nice cheap discount here. I'm willing to put up like $20, something like, because I think that might do it. Literally for the Texans matchup, and then cut him if I need to.
Yeah, I'd probably max out at $20, but I'd say that's a fair bid right there. Just because like I said, if you're throwing a Hail Mary for him, it's just not gonna get you anywhere. And I mean, there should be some quality quarterbacks who still aren't rostered yet that you could probably get a hold of. Maybe there's a good one who's just got cut, but yeah, I mean, the talent that's on this roster, there's no way, especially against the Texans, who have they're still the Texans. They made some strides, but
They're
they're
dreadful. They're
still,
just
yeah.
dreadful. Their defense is dreadful. They're dreadful. It's all dreadful. But you're
CJ
talking
Stroud
about
looks good. I
sure,
mean,
sure. But you remember my math from last week. $76 a week is my math because
yeah,
that's the standard fab budget multiplied out times the 14 weeks of the season that you get to make bids.
right.
So what I'm telling you is by the way my math typically works, you get $76 a week. I'm going to spend $20 of that on Trevor Lawrence as a spot start for 1 week against the Texans because if it works out, cool. You could stay on my team, and if it flames out, I don't care. I haven't invested enough to actually care. So I'll cut him, throw him back in the pile, and then we'll move on. And that's going to be my advice for how to deal with quarterback as it relates to Trevor Lawrence. But if Lawrence doesn't float your boat, then let's look at this a different way because a lot of the good quarterbacks kind of, I mean, Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, Herbert, Jackson, Tua, Cousins had a nice week because if you survive the week one stinker that he put up, you lived through that. The only other one that might have really killed you is Fields because everybody else is
I mean,
kind of
still,
there.
Fields was just below 20. I mean, so I mean, as bad as Fields has played real life football fantasy football,
The numbers are still there
he's
largely because of the rushing floor and things like that.
yeah.
Dak was
So
good. Goff
mhm.
was good.
He had a nice rebound.
The only
Dak
other
did.
one that I'd really be worried about is Burrow, because that's
But
been terrible, and his O line isn't going to get any better. And now he's beat up to the point where you honestly he might not even be playing next week.
I think so. I mean, he was able to get 20 points, this past week, and it looked ugly. I think the calf has been bothering him a lot more than he's let on, and he probably should not have been out there earlier. He probably should have just did exactly what Jamar Chase said and not show up until week 4 and just get healthy, because now it sounds like he re-aggravated it later in the game, and it's not looking good.
I'm not
So
a medical doctor. I just play one in real life, and
yeah.
I don't know anything about any of that. Ask Dr.
Mhm.
Edwin Porras, who we work with through our Discord. He's a great guy. He can answer those types of questions. That's why we love him.
Right.
What I think is the bigger issue beyond anything medical is just the O line. It's
Yeah.
just not acceptable. Their level of
No.
O line play is pathetic for
Yeah.
a back to back playoff team. They lost guys in the offseason. I get it. They've got cap issues now because they're trying to pay Joe Burrow $11 billion. Fine, I get it. I get how the NFL works in that regard, but you can't have this O line. And we've been talking about this all preseason. Was that there was a good chance it was going to get him killed, and he got hurt in the preseason because the O line is bad, and then now he's running for his life every week, and it's just not acceptable to have a guy like that. The only other one you might be looking for a replacement for is Anthony Richardson. So if I'm trying to dig down and I want to look for guys that are probably available, if I need a streamer, whether it's Guillotine or otherwise, uh, the one that I would be most inclined to deal with, I've got 2 names for you, maybe 3 if it's available. But it would be Sam Howell. The problem with Sam Howell is that this week he draws Buffalo. I don't like that very much. The one thing you're going to hang your hat on there is that he's going to have to throw it a ton. So I normally he'd be right out the gate because he's looked good. I can't argue with any of that. The other couple names here you have would be guys like Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson. That's kind of who you're looking for there. If somebody is if you've got issues and you're looking for something that would be available, that's who I would kind of steer you towards based on that. If you have to go too much farther down the page, if I had to go all the way down the page, I would actually probably grab. I'd probably grab Kenny Pickett just because they're playing the Raiders, and the Raiders couldn't stop anything if their lives depended on it. So that would be my advice there. It's guys like that. If I had to circle a name for you out of that kind of soup that I just kind of ladled out, if I had to pick one to die with, it would be Russell Wilson against Miami because he's going to have to throw it 900 times to stay in that game. And it's just a pure volume play at that point. That's a 1 week thing. But if I was looking for something that wasn't a 1 week thing and I needed a backup quarterback to kind of steward the ship a little bit because I did survive the Trevor Lawrence massacre, but now I'm afraid, Sam Howell
He's looked
would be my
really
choice.
good. He's
Yeah.
looked really good this season.
What do you think, Lance? I've kind of rattled that off. And then for nuance, by the way, I'm not willing to spend a lot of money on any of these guys. Again, for my math, it's $76. I wouldn't be willing to spend more than 30 on any one of those individual guys, and that's being generous. Because you're going to need that money for the other skill positions we're going to get into in a minute.
Yeah. No, 100, especially with the way running back's looking. This sounds like poison coming out of my mouth, and I do not want to say it.
Well, now I'm interested.
Jordan Love.
Oh, wow.
Jordan Love,
Yeah, that
3
sounded like poison.
touchdowns, no interceptions. He doesn't wow you with what he's doing out there.
No, he threw for like 170 yards.
Yeah, but
and it's one of the most unimpressive games I saw all weekend was Jordan Love and the constipated Green offense.
But at the same time, it's like, he's playing safe. You got that floor there where he's not gonna I don't think he's gonna be the reason you sink on any given week. So if you're in dire straits, you need someone with a decent upside. I would definitely go Jordan Love. Another name, I don't know if you see, this is tough because he was getting drafted, and I don't know if people dropped him after the bad first week, but Geno Smith is another one
That's too
where
high. He's too highly
too
rostered.
high
I
still.
already
Okay.
looked into that. I
Okay.
already looked into that. Hold on a second. Soaring Eagle, this is the wrong show for you. Sir, this is not the normal show. All right, hold on. Soaring Eagle doesn't understand that this is the Guillotine show. Hold on. He's one of our regulars from other shows. Double PPR. The hell is double PPR? Josh Reynolds and Raheed Shaheed for me. Gabe Davis terrifies me.
Josh Reynolds and Gabe Davis. You got a safety blanket in Josh Reynolds.
Josh Reynolds is the one we're going to agree on. That's one's arguing about Josh Reynolds as long as he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He was doing this stuff last year and then he got hurt. And that's what derailed his whole season. So I'm not worried about Josh Reynolds as long as he can stay healthy. He'll keep putting up good numbers. Well, I get what it meant, dude. I've never heard of that before, and I do this for a living.
Yeah, that's
like I get what it means. Like you're the only person I deal with this all week. I've never had anybody ask me a double PPR question in my life. But we could argue about Gabe Davis and Rashid Shaheed all night long. That's the Spider-Man meme. It's the same person. It's the same thing. The reason that I'm going to go Rashid Shaheed is I think he's look, I know Gabe Davis caught the touchdown last week. Shaheed is a little more involved. He's getting more targets. Carr is looking for him a little more, and they're taking a lot of nice deep shots to him down the field. Gabe Davis terrifies me and always has and always will, and that's why I roster so little of Gabe Davis and don't recommend Gabe Davis to people, but I recommend Rashid Shaheed to anyone who's willing to listen to me, which is an increasingly dwindling amount of people. So, but that's going to be what it is. So, what do you think, Lance? You said Gabe Davis. What's the argument for Davis? Is it the Bills? Is that the argument?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much just Bills. Rashid Shaheed, for me, it's also mouse to feed in front of him. So with Shaheed, you got Michael Thomas. It looks like they're getting him involved. I think he's had about 8 targets in both games. Chris Olave isn't going anywhere. And now, especially with whatever happened with Jamal Williams, I don't know exactly what he's kind of banged up
He has a hamstring injury. He's going to be out for a couple weeks, and frankly, it doesn't matter anyway because by the time it's functionally just a season-ending injury because Kamara's going to come back, so it doesn't matter.
No, Kamara's going to be
Jamal Williams is functionally droppable at this point. He was terrible. As sad as that is, because I like Jamal Williams a lot, but his season's basically over from a fantasy perspective already.
Unless he continues to do what he did last year and just come in on the goal line, but that's
not. No one cares about that.
Exactly. Yeah.
In a double PPR league, especially, you really don't care about that.
And so I do think the Saints are going to be passing it more, with the exception of a few Taysom Hill runs this next week. But Davis, for me, it's just he's a number 2 in that offense. I mean, I know everyone got super excited about him after he had 4 touchdowns in the playoff game, and that he overdrafted him, and that he did not live up to those expectations. But he's still got a prominent role in one of the top offenses.
Does he? How many more targets do you think Gabe Davis has than Rashid Shaheed in 2 games?
In 2 games?
In 2 games this season, how many targets? First of all, how many targets do you think each of these 2 players has through 2 games? Because I know the answer to this.
Davis would probably be at about 6, and I would say Shaheed probably about 5.
No. Gabe Davis has 11 targets through 2 games. Rashid Shaheed has 10.
So about even.
That's kind of my point. It's the
Yeah,
same
I was
guy.
going game by game. That's my bad.
No, yeah, I'm talking about
Yeah,
total.
total. Okay.
It's the
So yeah,
same thing.
double those
You're
and
talking about, we can argue about
mhm.
number 2 target on a team, 3 target on a team. Not really relevant. At the end of the day, it's two guys that play the same role for their respective teams, which is the field stretcher and the burner. And that's what they do. They're
So
getting
then
roughly the same. They're getting
it
the same
comes
amount of targets.
it comes down to who do you want throwing them the ball? Do you want Josh Allen or do you want Derek Carr?
And in my case, I'm going to take Derek Carr, not because Derek Carr it has nothing to do with being better than one or the other. It has to do with who is more likely to be getting blown out in games and having to be chucking it from behind to their field stretcher. And that's the Saints. Because the Bills are going to be winning every single game that they're in, realistically, unless they're playing the Chiefs or the Eagles. And
Who
it's
they
like,
play
to
in
me,
week one?
what's that?
Who they play in week one again?
The Bills? I don't remember. I could tell you, but
Yeah.
the Bills played the Jets in week one. That was
Yeah,
the
and they
game
ended up
where
losing that
Aaron
one.
Rodgers got his little leg hurt.
Yeah. And then yet the Bills still
And the Bills
lost
still
that
found a way
one.
to lose, which was
Yeah.
pretty impressive. But it's week one, so I tend to throw some of that out.
Mhm.
Uh, it's You're talking about through two games. We've completely derailed the entire show. This is why this is
We
not a
have.
start sit show. Because none of this is relevant to the people who are here to get advice on how to not get chopped in their league. But this is why I was saying we could debate this all day long. To me, it's a
Right.
Spider-Man meme.
Oh,
You're
exactly.
you're arguing about the same person,
Mhm.
which is
No,
frustrating
they're
that you would roster both. But
yeah.
I would prefer Shaheed over Gabe Davis, just generally speaking.
Mhm. And yeah, I'd prefer Davis, but that's again, like you said, Spider-Man meme. But anyway, to round out the quarterbacks,
That's what we were doing.
what, bro? Okay, cool. I am sorry about that. Anyway,
Sorry about what? None of that came through. So
none of that came through at all.
no.
Okay.
Stop watching porn while we're trying to do a show.
I honestly wish it was over the Burger King Whopper, 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 Whopper. I literally heard that. I didn't know if it was on your end or mine, and
None
I'm
of that
just like,
came
oh
through
my god.
the
Okay,
mic.
thank God.
So
Thank God. But
uh,
anyway, round out quarterbacks, I'd take Mac Jones, CJ Stroud if Geno Smith isn't available. And both of them
you are right though. The Whopper song from Burger King would be more embarrassing than porn.
somehow, yeah, yeah.
That would actually somehow be more embarrassing. I can't believe I just stuck in my head there. Uh,
But yeah, both of them have had, a ton of attempts throughout two games, in the I think they have decent matchups coming up and, they're not in the best offenses in the league, but they each have kind of their favorite target, whether it's Kendrick Bourne or Hunter Henry for Mac Jones or Nico Collins or Tank Dell for CJ Stroud. I mean, these are guys that are gonna throw it, and I think Mac Jones gets a lot of shade.
there's a
Some
different
of
word
it's
for it.
warranted. Yeah.
Well, it's a PG-13 show. I know where you were going
Oh,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
But for what he did last year, and not all that was on him. I mean, he had a great rookie year. I think he's gonna kind of even out into that mid tier, and I think he'll have a better season this season, especially with Bill O'Brien. So if you need someone that's gonna be a little bit of a safety net, I would go those two.
okay. I can't go there with you on the Mac Jones. I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm gonna need to see a lot more
Give it some
sample.
time.
Need more
Give it some
sample.
time.
Can't get. I am starting to warm up to the idea of CJ Stroud, and we're going to talk about Tank Dell actually in the wide receiver section. It's not that I
Mhm.
think CJ Stroud is that good, because he actually looks like he's just running for his life out there, and it's kind of terrifying. I
Texans.
get it. His O line is bad. He's a rookie.
It's Texans.
Protections, but it's working to an extent. At some point, he's going to die. That's what I know, is that you keep doing that, you eventually get your knee broken. That's where that movie historically ends. I've seen guys do that for years, and eventually they get
Too
flattened.
soon.
But it's working. It's
Too
working
soon.
pretty well for right now.
Too soon after Monday Night Football. Too soon.
No, it's all the time is always right for that conversation. Uh,
Oh my god.
Mike, you're much more in the right show. Um, so you're losing Burrow. Okay. Thoughts on replacement I have available with a fab budget. Picking Wilson, Howell, Stafford. This is interesting. We already kind of did this question. If I needed a 1 week thing, it's Wilson. If I need something for the haul, it's Howell. If you get beat out on either of those two guys, I would do Stafford also for the haul. Don't really much care for Stafford's matchup this week, but but Stafford has the proven track record and pedigree, and also has looked pretty good with Puka Nakau and Kyron Williams. That team actually is working a lot
Tutu
better.
Atwell. Yeah.
It's
I
working a
mean,
lot better than it was with Van Jefferson and Cam Akers, and they're going to get Cooper Kupp back, and that'll help. So the one that I'm terrified of is Pickett. That's the one that I would scratch off that list. Lance, what do you think, real quick here, before we start talking about some running back?
I honestly, for me, it's not even close. I go Stafford, and he's head and shoulders above all the rest for
I
exactly
could
what
I
you
could
just
see how
said.
you would get to that. I can't say I
Um,
don't understand.
yeah, and I mean, forgot about Dre. Everyone forgot about Sean McVay. So I mean, I think they're getting back on track. Puka Nakala got 20 targets. Tutu Atwell. You've seen him, you picked him up enough where you just kind of discount him, but I think he's got a prominent role in this offense. You've seen how they can flourish with three wide receivers with Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods. I think they're going to get back to that. And like you said, when Cooper Kupp gets back, this offense is just going to get better. If you have to go after someone aside from Stafford, I'd go Howell next, and then Wilson, then Pickett. So essentially
Sure.
reverse how you had it ordered
Well,
is
not
how I
quite,
would
because
do
we
it.
both have Pickett firmly at the end.
Oh yeah, I was
Uh,
how you wrote.
but hey, what's going on?
Lasso
All right. Quick question here. Was we're gonna get into running back anyway, so we'll just start it with this.
Johnson.
Uh, I'm gonna stash Spears. It depends if we're talking about dynasty or if we're talking about redraft. In dynasty,
Yeah.
I would want
Yeah.
Johnson because I think Johnson has more of a future in a real way because he's the best pass protector the Bears have. Spears, I'm interested in for the short term because Spears is here for a good time, not a long time, because he's got no ACLs. And I don't mean that in like a dickhead hyperbolic way. I mean that in like a literal medical. The man has no ACL in either knee. So the first time that gets broken, that's it. Career over. He'll never recover from that. And that's not me trying to be a flippant dick. It's literally like that's just science. So, but as far as if we're talking about short term, guillotine league, redraft league, I figured it would be something like that. That makes sense. But if we're talking about short term, as in like a guillotine league or a redraft league, that's what I want. If we're talking about a dynasty league, I'll take Roshan Johnson because I think he has the better future long term.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of fielded a little bit about Roshan Johnson last weekend, and I said I probably wouldn't be comfortable with him right now just because I think his role is going to ramp up as the season goes on. Well, I already had to eat those words because they made Deontay Foreman healthy and active. So it looks like he's already starting to get that role. His usage did not really go up all that much, but I think he's just going to continue to get more and more work because Herbert, you see a lot. Roshan Johnson, when you watch him, he just pops, and Herbert just doesn't really do that for you. He's had some okay games in the past, but I think they're definitely gonna, especially with how the offense has gone in Chicago so far this season. I think they're gonna start making some changes, just with personnel, with play calling, with anything. I mean, they have to switch it up, otherwise heads are gonna roll. Absolutely.
It depends. Like I said, if if you need a short term thing, get Spears. If you need something that you're trying to evaluate for the season or for full long term, then grab Johnson. I know Lance would tell you probably just grab Johnson. If I'm
I tell you,
summarizing,
grab. I mean, you're trying to
yeah,
wrestle carries away from Derrick Henry versus Khalil Herbert, so that's kind of where I'd go with it. But
I don't know that it's going to matter too much longer because the Bears are about to go straight in the tank, as they have done, my entire adult life.
yeah,
Uh,
they're
Here's the other question. If you really want to play this way, here's the other question: do you have Derrick Henry? Because it does matter. If
who's
you
that?
have
Him?
I'm talking to the gentleman who's asking the question.
Okay, gotcha.
If you have Derrick Henry on your team, it does make a material difference. Okay, you do not. Okay, all right. That then, uh, if you're looking
Yeah.
for something that's a little bit more of a long term prospect, go ahead and just grab Johnson. Because the
Mhm.
only way Spears is going to have real value is short term, and it really is only if something is going to happen to
And
Henry.
especially, yeah, and
The
especially with what you said, it's like there's a lot of caution that goes with picking up Spears. I think so. I I think Johnson's just got less tread on the tires. He was a backup to Bijan Robinson at Texas. Like I think they're really gonna start to ramp up the usage a lot
I
quicker than
like
people
Spears
expected.
quite a bit. The problem is that if you're unless you're gonna trying to use him for short term stuff, if you're looking for a long term stash, I don't you don't need to roster Spears. Like that's not
Yeah.
really what it's about. Like Spears is as I said, he's here for a good time, not a long time. Like that's uh hey Chuck. Oh my god. Chuck comes in periodically as well. Uh PPR redraft.
Cuba.
It's Chuba. Tony
Cuba,
Jones is
Cuba,
not
Cuba.
going to have value for very long.
You're gonna
Um,
pick up Tony Jones just to see Taysom Hill get every single carry.
well, then
Don't
there's
do it.
like for like a week, and
Yeah,
then
well, yeah, it's a
Kamara's
week,
back.
and then
This is
yeah.
point. It's kind of pointless.
But if you're doing it
Uh,
just for that week, Taysom Hill's
yeah.
gonna
Well,
take all the work away.
his others are. Oh wow, I see the question. Because you got Jonathan Taylor is not available. Uh,
Aaron Jones, I'm assuming, is
Aaron
banged up.
Jones might be back this week. It's possible. I
I
would
could.
be skeptical that Montgomery is going to play. So he needs a body for like a 1 week spot start.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get where we're headed here. And this is actually good because it's going to segue me nicely into our next official topic, which is talking about things that could be picked up. So, Chuck, the number one pickup at running back is uh, it's going to be Jerome Ford, and I don't know that there's going to be much debate on this with Nick Chubb going down. Uh, so that's kind of uh, I'm trying to think who else would even be in the conversation. Uh,
I
Lance,
mean,
who else do you even have?
I would be cautious of Nick Chubb or not Nick Chubb, Jerome Ford, just for the simple fact that Kareem Hunt's always a name who could come back. Now, I don't think Kareem Hunt's gonna come back and be Kareem Hunt of the old, but he's just going to be a pest for you if you spend a ton trying to get Jerome Ford.
Oh,
He's
it's
just going to
not
eat
even
into that
spending. I see
workload.
the problem. He's never even going to get into Jerome Ford. You're way down the
Mm.
list. Okay, okay, we're going to recalibrate this. Um, uh, fa- la, 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 la.
I'd still go with Chuba. I think Chuba's just got a better role in
Well, sure, boy. All
because
right,
they
let
got
me let
Miller.
me
They
rattle
got
off some names. Let
they
me
got
rattle off some
Miller, the
names here.
rookie. But yeah,
Well, they do, but okay, of the available running backs that people are going to be battling over this week, it's going to probably work like this. Jerome Ford will be the number one waiver claim in a system that uses claims, right? Come on, man. Like let's be honest about what's really going to happen in the world. That's going to be whether it's guillotine or redraft or anything. Jerome Ford's going to be number one. We can argue about Kareem Hunt if you want. I don't even functionally care because even if Kareem Hunt comes in, it's going to take him more than a week to figure this out. He's been sitting on his couch. So, and then
maybe
you're
he
also
knows
talking
the
about
offense.
sure, but you're talking about a Browns team that got to see both of those guys in the preseason and made their choice. So how much are they really going to be interested in Kareem Hunt? Like, they're going to bring him back more than likely, and they'll throw him
I
a
don't think
helmet
they
and
had
say,
him in the
"Get in there."
preseason. I think they cut him
Off
early
season is off
in the
season is
off
what I meant.
season.
But
Yeah, but
here's what I know. It's going to be Jerome Ford as number 1. Zach Moss will almost certainly be number 2.
oh
And then
god,
it'll
yeah.
probably be a combination of Roshan Johnson and Tajay Spears. And then it'll be Justice Hill at 5, and then Chuba. So that's your answer, Chuck. Do you think you could get any one of those 5 guys? Because not only, Lance, is he talking about he would need to be able to claim them. He's talking about he's going to have to start them unless one of his guys actually manages to get healthy.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wasteland that is running back this season. Hence why I go back to my comment from 30 minutes ago about CMC, Bijan, and Tony Pollard are the 3 most valuable players in fantasy right now. Because everybody else at running back who plays running back is hurt. Took 2 weeks, all hurt, all gone. Unless your name or James Conner, I guess, is still not hurt yet.
Yeah.
He'll pull a Nate Burleson and pull a hamstring ordering a pizza.
Yeah, I would go with Chuba if it's
So you're gonna
between
go
Chuba and
Chuba.
Tony Jones.
You're gonna go Chuba. Yeah, but I'm talking about Chuba versus Spears, Roshan, Ford, Moss. Are you going Chuba over all of that?
Oh
Because
no.
he might
Roshan
as well put the
Johnson.
claims in and see if he gets lucky.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well. I would go.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're able to
Here
get,
you go.
you know,
Only one you mentioned available aside from Ford. Simple. Put the claims in. See what you hit.
yeah.
I'd have any one of those 5 guys I rattled off in front of Chuba Hubbard. I'd have any one of those 5 guys that I rattled off there in front of Chuba Hubbard. See
Yeah.
now, yeah. So, and that's what I would do, and I would not drop Chuba Hubbard for Tony Jones. We agree on that.
Yeah,
On
no,
this
that's
show.
what.
Don't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no. Good
Do
job,
not
no.
do that. I would rather just deal with it. But I would go ahead and put the waiver claims in because you lose nothing for putting the claims in.
Mm-hmm.
So I
As
would
long
do
as it's
that.
not for Tony Jones, you're good.
Yeah. So I get the general question because this is that's a rough one. And then Chuck, by the way, I do see your other question on here, but we're not doing tight end right now, so I'm going to work my way back to you. I do have another running back question. Should I drop Gibson? My RBs are Etienne, Ken Walker, Devin Singletary, Gainwell, and Deion Jackson. I'm assuming he means Antonio Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
And I would drop Devin Singletary way before I ever got to dropping Gibson.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I'm not dropping Gainwell. It's not happening.
I would drop Singletary and Jackson, and I would be tempted to do Gainwell too over Gibson. Gibson's had a slow start, but I think he's proven time and time again he's got a role in that offense. Brian Robinson is starting to get some of the passing work and the passing downs, but I don't think that. I mean, you're betting on an Eagles backfield that has Rashad Penny came over.
Rashad Penny doesn't matter. Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch, and then even in a game when they would rather give DeAndre Swift 28 touches than give Rashad Penny anything. So the only reason Rashad Penny's on that team is because they signed him before the Swift deal and they couldn't get out of the contract.
Essentially, yeah.
Means
But again, it's just another body that's in the way, and you got.
I'd rather talk to you about
you
Boston
got
Scott before we got into
Boston
Rashad
Scott.
Penny.
You got DeAndre Swift, and you got Jalen Hurts, who's going to run it. So
Sure.
there's just too many mouths to feed in Philadelphia for me to justify that versus 2.
But that's not the question. The question is, should I drop Gibson given this list of RBs? And I would say,
nope.
Forget quibbling about the relative merits of each individual Philly running back. I would cut Devin Singletary way before I ever cut Gibson. Devin Singletary doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a bad team playing behind a better, younger running back. On a team that can't run the ball worth a damn, and is going to have negative game script all year. And the only way Devin Singletary will even theoretically begin to matter is if Pierce is IR'd. Not just hurt, but like IR'd. Like done. And even then, I'd be terrified of it because it's Devin Singletary. So no, I think Devin Singletary droppable in all formats.
Yeah, I definitely would not be holding on to him and trying to let go of Gibson, or Deion Jackson, frankly,
Yeah.
or
So
yeah, I'd
all
hold
right.
on to Gibson.
Yeah, hold on to Gibson because at least there's some signs of life there. Whereas Devin Singletary is just dead weight. So yeah, you could feel free to move on from Singletary if you're listening to this. So we kind of in a roundabout way have gone through this, Lance. It's kind of been a weird road to get there, but I rattled it off as far as for your guillotine leagues. Working back to the actual point of the show, if you had Etienne, you probably got killed. You might not have made it through the week. So the question becomes, for some of these guys that have been underperforming and have been hurt and people that are getting cut, Etienne is one that he might have cost you your week last week and got you chopped. So if you didn't have Etienne, what percentage of your fab would you be willing to spend to get Etienne? Because for me, that's one of the guys where I might be willing. You know my philosophy on this. I'm not going to spend more than about $75 any given week until we get to the end of, and I'd probably like to spend less. So I have extra money left over for when we get to like weeks 12, 13, 14, when I'm really going to need that money and everybody else is blown their wad and they've got nothing. So I just get my pick of the litter. If I don't need a running back, I probably won't worry about it. Getting a high priced guy. But what would you be willing to put up for Etienne? Because he's more than likely going to be the one that's available in a guillotine league scenario.
I'd probably do anywhere from 25 to $30. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not jumping to try to get him. I mean, it's a nice depth piece to have at running back, and especially when we were talking about the amount of running backs that have been banged up this year, how
That are
much.
hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, depth is never a bad thing, but at the same time, it's just like you're kind of you're banking on a lot here. I mean, Lawrence, you can kind of talk yourself into ETN where you're trying to really get it. It depends on how well your running backs have done over the past couple weeks. If your running backs are doing okay, I wouldn't worry about it. If your running backs are a little questionable, starting to get banged up, then I would probably do, closer to 30, 35.
Okay. Okay. And then what about like a Kyron Williams? Because he might already be gone, but if he's not, this is probably your last chance.
Roll the dice and do. I mean, you can't do him and other people. I'd roll the dice and do 70.
I would
If you
probably be willing to
need,
blow the entire 75 on Kyron
yeah.
Williams and just
I
shoot my
mean,
shot.
and I don't like saying it because I feel this Rams backfield has just been a musical chairs ever since Todd Gurley fell off, and probably going to continue to be that. But I mean, it does seem there was something out that they're taking trade calls now for Cam Akers. Now, whether that's true, whether it's not,
Oh, I
doesn't really
believe that to be
matter.
true. I actually believe that to be a true statement.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless, it seems like they're pretty comfortable with Kyron, so I would do that, but I wouldn't be too comfortable in, thinking, oh wow, I got someone who's going to be for sure the starter for the rest of the year. For probably the next half of the season, yeah, you should be golden. Keyword should.
Chris, get out of here. Get out of here, Chris. Get out of here. I'll see you on Thursday. You get out of here. Sorry for the 5 people that get the joke he's making. I had to post it because it's objectively hilarious. Thank you, Chris, for popping in. Thank you, Chris, for popping in with this. And that is a fantastic deep cut. The 5 people who get that joke are laughing hysterically. That's thank you, Chris. I appreciate the levity as always. I'm not even going to explain the joke. If you were here last Thursday, you get that joke, and it's amazing. And it's an amazing joke. So those are like the big names, right, Lance? Like, is there anybody that's like a bigger name that that you want to talk about that I might have missed? Because I think I hit the big names that would be available in a chop scenario. Because it would be Etienne, possibly Williams might still be floating out there in your league. I theoretically guess Raheem Mostert would be there, but by now he's probably gone. Uh, it's more guys like that. The only other person that you might be willing to talk about would be Najee Harris, but I'm not touching that with your. I'm not touching that with your wife's boyfriend's. You know what? Like I'm way out on that. Like that's not happening. Like I'm no way.
Yeah, no, I really want no part of whatever's going on in the Steelers' backfield. I guess
Take
there
Jalen
is,
Warren, but that's long gone.
yeah, even that there's so much that I don't know. It seems like a mess, and it seems like something I don't want the headache week to week
Yeah,
of, is he going to be getting more carries? Is he not going to be getting more carries? There, if you're in a bind like before, and I forgot to mention this earlier for whoever asked a question about picking up a running back. Another good running back to get, because Saquon's going to be out for 3 weeks, is potentially Matt Breida. I don't think he's gonna wow you,
Breida, and I completely
Breida,
disagree with this take. But please go on.
but
Unless
I
your
mean,
take is to run far away from Matt Breida and never look back, I'm going to disagree with this take.
I think it's someone who, if you need to get by in a pinch, he could probably float you for a couple weeks, but after that, he's going to be worthless. And even for these couple weeks, he probably won't be amazing. But if you're looking at a scenario where you do have Jonathan Taylor, two running backs that are hurt, and you don't like anyone else you're starting,
In
why
his
not?
unique scenario, maybe that's what you do.
Yeah.
Uh, I was going to bring this up because we've covered some of the big names in the background about what to do with some of the bigger names that are likely going to hit the wire, and it's like Etienne, there's some trepidation. Najee Harris, there's definitely some trepidation. Kyron Williams is still out there, full wheels up, go full send, go into that, get that on your team if you need a running back. But typically, where I'm at, unless your running backs are in complete shambles, which is entirely possible given what we've been talking about, how bad it's really been, the names that you're probably going to be picking between are your Jerome Fordses, your Zach Mosses, your Roshan Johnsons, Tajay Spearses, and then it's going to go down a tier to your Justice Hills, and then it's going to go down a tier again to your Chuba Hubbards and your Devin A. Chains, and then it's going to go down a tier again to your Matt Breidas and your Kareem Hunts, and then your Tony Joneses. And that very much, that very much, that very much has been kind of the pecking order here. So for me, it's like, I totally get it if people want to go blow. I, I normally don't bend my own rules, but for Jerome Ford, I might be willing to spend a little bit more just because I just don't believe in the whole Kareem Hunt thing. I believe that they'll probably re-sign him and they'll throw him back out there, but I've seen Kareem Hunt a lot, and he's getting old, and he's just not the explosive player that he used to be. And they
No,
might
I don't.
use him.
Yeah.
They might have him go back to his old job as being the pass catcher. Maybe that's what they do. But they've seen Jerome Ford enough to where I feel like they're going to give him a good amount of the work, and that's going to be a for the season type of thing. That's why I'm willing to spend a little bit more on a Jerome Ford. For Zach Moss, I would not spend any more than like 25. And then it starts degrading down from there. Roshan, I might be willing to spend 15 to 20. Spears, about the same neighborhood. Justice Hill, I'll maybe give you $10. That's kind of where I'm at with it because I don't believe in it and I don't like it and I haven't really ever. Chuba Hubbard is another one for about $10. I'll go to 15 if I have Miles Sanders. I probably already roster him if I have Miles Sanders. Devin A. Chain, I'll give you 5. I'll give you 5 and a ham sandwich. Matt Breida, I'll give you $1. Because Matt Breida has had this opportunity in the past a number of times, and he always poos the bed. Always. I have very little evidence that Matt Breida will actually be able to this time magically get out of his own way and learn how to actually play meaningful foosball. But I will say to Chuck, when you've already scratched in a 16-team league the 5 names that I just rattled off because you're playing in a 16-team league, yeah, your world is ugly now because it's 16 teams, and I've played in a lot of 16-team leagues. I know how this goes. So let's talk about it in a very direct way. Would you cut Chuba Hubbard for Matt Breida? No, I wouldn't. Lance might. I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm just if it's between Tony Jones or someone like that, then yeah, I'd go Breida over Tony Jones, honestly.
Sure, but nobody's going Chuba Hubbard over. Nobody's cutting Chuba Hubbard on this show for either of those names. So that's kind of the direct.
No, they shouldn't. No.
That's the direct point I'm trying to make here.
Yep.
So it's that type of deal. Hell, man, if you want to stash, if y'all want to stash like a real stash, like get him now for $1, Jeff Wilson. There ain't no way they're going to let Raheem Mostert keep this job at the clip that he's had it at for this long. If they do, he'll die. History tells me that he'll never make the season if they let him run it at the clip they've been letting him run it at. And Jeff Wilson's he's going to miss a couple more weeks. Stash him on the end of your bench for $1. You can get him now. Get him now while it's cheap. So that's, if you want a real stash, that's kind of where I'm at. Sorry, 14-team league. My apologies. Stevenson, Cooks, Spears drop for Johnson and JTM. I have Hunt waiting to see who he lands with. You want to know my actual advice here? Don't play with position limits. It's my actual advice. Position limits are stupid. Yeah. Generally speaking. I lobby to get them changed in just about any league I'm in because they don't actually do what people hope they'll do, which is prevent hoarding. But hoarding is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it allows you to make trades.
Right.
No, you do not do that. Because Hunt's probably going to get signed here in the next 3 to 4 days, probably less, back to his old job with Cleveland. So I would not do that. But those are the kind of, besides Matt Breida, Lance, did I miss anything? Do you want to take me to task on any of this stuff? Feel free to tell me I'm wrong or call me an idiot. I mean, I deal with that all day long from everybody else I work with. What would be different about this? So feel free, man. Shoot your shot. Tell me I'm crazy.
The one name who might have actually got chopped this week, who has kind of an encouraging schedule going forward and has gotten a little bit more involvement in the offense than maybe you would have thought. Alexander Madison. He had about 3 points, looked terrible against Philly. Like, there's no debating that.
I agree with that.
Look
terrible is pretty much the season so far.
Actually. Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, he's got a pretty good schedule coming up. He's not just been their 2-down thumper. They have Ty Chandler they're trying to work in there. They have Myles Gaskins. They have why am I blanking? Why do I want to say McKnight?
Who is that? Zonovan Knight? Zonovan Knight's in Detroit.
No. Dwayne McBride. That's who it is.
Oh, Dwayne McBride. Okay.
Yeah, they're rookie from this year. So, I mean, they don't really have someone who's truly going to challenge him for that role, I feel. Now, we haven't seen him be the bell cow back for an entire year, but I think there's a chance if he got cut, you're looking for depth. He's a guy I would definitely be willing to spend probably about that $30 limit on, if not more. Just pick him up and could get you through a couple weeks, honestly, I think.
I get the logic. I don't want any part of Alexander Madison personally. I've watched him play for years. People want to say he's, Dalvin Cook light. No.
I don't know. I'm not one of those.
He's like the Wish version of Dalvin Cook. Like, it's not comparable.
No, he's not Dalvin Cook. They never should have cut Dalvin Cook. That was a mistake by them that was on full display on Thursday night. But I do think he does have a value, especially with what we've been talking about, how rough running back's looking.
What's
You
funny to
know,
me is like what I would rather do. It's funny because I can't necessarily like. It'd be really hard for me to sit here and say like, "Oh, you're wrong. Don't don't pick up Alexander Madison. He's terrible." It's something I actually believe, but it's not really a good counter argument to what you're saying because Alexander Madison will be on the football field at least for now. The one that what I'm actually more interested in is Ty Chandler because as Madison progressively continues to look like crap, the more the likelihood is that they're going to make a change to Chandler. because that's what actually is more intriguing to me is rather than pick up Madison, it's like I'd almost want them both because
yeah,
I
no, if
like
you got one, you have to have the other at this
Chandler is the
point.
one that I actually have more faith in moving forward because I'm wondering if maybe it's just Madison might just be not long for this world. But let's we've spent a lot of time answering questions, and I'm grateful for the questions. And you're welcome, Chuck. By the way, take a look at that if you don't need anything immediately. Let's talk about wide receiver. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room here.
hmm
Um, because really, it's like I hate to keep picking on Jacksonville, but it's just the way guillotine works. You know what I mean? The people
Yep.
that likely got chopped. I mean, it's not the Christian Kirk people,
No.
but the Zay Jones zero hurt bad. And same
Ridley,
thing with the
that was
Etienne
another one.
struggles. Yeah, so it's like Zay Jones is very likely out there, even if he didn't get chopped, might cut him. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's it's the ones that'll be the most frustrating is like AJ Brown because you can't do anything with that. It's just going to be the way that is. It's how it was. It's how it was last year with
hmm
it's how it was last year with that team. They would alternate having good weeks a lot of the time, and it's just going to be the way that it is. Like Brown had a great week 1. They left Goddard in the cold. He had nothing. Week 2, they're rotating coverage to Brown to prevent him from destroying them. So Smith is getting single high safety and nothing. And Goddard's just standing there open in the middle of the field because the Minnesota secondary is just trash. So what are you going to do if you're hurt? You just take what the defense gives you. And I like how AJ Brown's arguing with him in a game they're winning on the sideline in the fourth quarter about how he's not getting the ball enough.
Give me the ball.
True
Yeah.
true competitor. I love it. But you can't do anything with that information. Like AJ Brown, if he's available, I would absolutely be trying to pick him up, but I bet he's not because he still had like a 7, so I doubt that's why you lost. It didn't help you, but I doubt that's why you came in last. There's probably another reason that's more palpable. So you'd have to go a little further down here in terms of what would be available. Puka Nakau's long gone in every format. It's not helping you.
hmm
Uh, DK Metcalf might be out there, but I doubt it. He was injured for part of that game, but he came back. Uh, so really, it's like you got to go all the way down to like wide receiver 33, Jerry Judy territory. This is kind of my point to you, Lance, is that from my analysis, from looking at this from Sunday, Monday, the big name wide receivers just ain't going to be there for you this week.
No.
Most of the big name wide receivers are on teams that probably didn't get clipped. Or if they are out there, it's because they got clipped because they were rostering no running backs and Trevor Lawrence. So it's going
Yeah.
to be really hard to kind of pinpoint like the easiest way I can explain this to people is if somebody in the top 32 is available, I would be picking them up. There's nobody in the top 32 at receiver that I would be sitting here making the argument like, oh, they're bad. Oh, they're going to fall off. I'd be trying to pick them up and I'd be willing to spend 50% of my available money, so about 35 some odd dollars to get something like that done, depending on who it was. Obviously, if they're in like the top 12. So I'm talking about guys like, Jefferson Hill, St. Brown, Diggs, I'm AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a scary one because he might be hurt, but he's not bad enough. Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley, Chris Olave, Keenan Allen, Puka Nakau, Jalen Waddle, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, Chris Godwin, Garrett Wilson, Michael Pittman Jr., George Pickens, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Mari Cooper, Drake London. Any of those guys are available, I pick them up. Jason, when you listen to this, make sure you chop that and put that on as a YouTube short so that we can cut that out and send it to people.
In
But
reverse.
that's in reverse. In reverse. That's any of those guys are available. Go pick them up. It's anybody in the top 32.
Go
So,
get
is
'em.
there
Yeah.
anybody specific you want to highlight, Lance, that would be kind of on the high end of wide receiver that you want to stress? Because otherwise, I think really what we're just talking about is guys outside the top 32 wide receivers and waiver wire guys. It's really kind of where we're at.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm definitely at the waiver wire guys part where
Okay.
it's you know
Who do you
Nico
like off the wire
Collins,
then?
Nico
Nico
Collins
Collins.
if he's there, Josh Reynolds if he's there, um,
Josh Reynolds is probably there.
Tutu Atwell if he's there.
That's a
Uh,
coin flip on that.
I think he's got a decent role in
Nico
this
Collins is
offense,
gone. I
and
can pretty much tell you that. Just about just
yeah,
about any guillotine or any other format, Nico Collins is probably gone. But Josh Reynolds is probably largely there. And Tutu
hmm
Atwell's about 50-50. It's worth
yeah,
noting. Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
why do
mean
why do
it's
you why do you like those individuals?
they put up numbers this year. I mean, plain and simple. That seems to be a good reason why to like him. I mean, so Josh Reynolds, he's in the Detroit offense, and they threw it 100 billion times last year, and it
On pace
won
for 100 billion again this year,
exactly.
comfortably.
And Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta, those are
One
guys
of
who
my
kind of get
favorites.
the yeah, exactly. They're great, but they're getting the intermediate balls. Reynolds has that big play upside where he's getting the deeper balls. He's getting those plays that are stretching the field. So, and he's averaging about what, 8 targets a game so far. I
Yeah,
think
it's
I
that's
could be,
actually the
or
number. It's
six,
eight.
six.
He's actually picked up right where he left off last year at the beginning of the
Mm-hmm.
year before he got hurt, and then that dogged him for he missed some
Yeah.
games, and then that dogged his knee never really healed in
No.
season last year. But at the
And to
beginning
be,
of the year, he was firmly entrenched as the wide receiver 2 on that team and as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy.
yeah. And
It's because he gets a decent amount of intermediate play and he
mhm,
gets the deep balls like where you're kind of going over there.
yeah. And I mean, I don't think he's going to be someone that as soon as Jameson Williams comes back, he might have to worry about a little competition for snap share there, but for the time being, roll with a hot hand, and kind of same thing with Tutu Atwell. Like Cooper Cup's eventually going to come back. His work is going to get scaled back. I think
Mm.
it'll still be a serviceable amount of work though, where you're not going to lose something significant where you're not going to be able to use him anymore. He's going to be a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. So I mean,
That's
you're good.
interesting. You went with guys that I didn't have, so this is good because for me, my number one guy is Rashid Shaheed. Fight me. I'll meet you at the airport.
I could
Um,
I had a feeling it was
it's going
Rashid
to be
Shaheed if
Rashid
I was
Shaheed.
going to
And by the
start
way,
betting.
not only is that my number one wide receiver for you don't want to know who agrees with me? Fantasy Pros, our affiliate. Fantasy Pros also has him as their number one wide receiver pickup of the week, and it's because it's for what I started talking about before. The man has 10 targets in 2 games. That's not really the point. It's the air yards per target and the depth of target that make that really interesting because think early career Tyler Lockett. It's not really my cup of tea normally. I normally prefer your Amon-Ra St. Browns, your Garrett Wilsons, your uh, Chris Godwins in PPR, your guys who work the slot, work the middle of the field, get that intermediate stuff, and get a lot of targets, get volume. But Rashid Shaheed is cartoon level fast. I can't make you run a 4-2. No one can teach you how to do that. You can either do that or you can't in pads. And it's he's only rostered in about 35% of leagues still. Should be more than that. And it's because they're going to keep finding ways to manufacture the ball and get him the ball. I know Michael Thomas isn't going anywhere. I know Chris Olave isn't going anywhere. The issue is that they're not getting any help outside of those two players. Olave's been fine. Michael Thomas has been fine. Everyone else has been a train wreck. So you got two guys, but those two guys can't carry the full load. So the one thing that I will say you can hang your hat on with Shaheed is if he gets the ball in his hands down the field, he's probably going to score.
No, he's gone. Yeah.
And I don't even necessarily need him to score. So I'm interested in that. You mentioned Tutu Atwell. I do have Tutu Atwell on here. The problem with Tutu Atwell is he's getting rostered in a lot of leagues. So what I'd say is last chance on Tutu Atwell. And then, you have to reevaluate that likely before, Cooper Kupp comes back. But my third name, Josh Reynolds is probably rostered in too many leagues at this point. I didn't actually check that. I should have. But my third name is actually it's Jaden Reed, somebody who I liked a lot in the preseason, and y'all Dobbs truthers, where you got all quiet, you turtled up. You were all in my kitchen during the preseason talking about how Dobbs was gonna do all this stuff and he was so talented, and I'm like, no, Jaden Reed has the college pedigree and also is the perfect profile for what the Packers need, which is a true X receiver to play on the flank and to give them something on the opposite side of the field. And Christian Watson isn't as good as you people think he is. And guess what? Jaden Reed's been fantastic. And by the way, even when Christian Watson comes back, I think he'll still be fantastic. He's not going to score a touchdown every week, but Jaden Reed is one of those guys that is people are sleeping on him, and you want to go ahead and stop doing that. So I'll give you your issue. He only played 54% of the snaps. That sucks. However, on those snaps, he ran a route on 72% of them. That's really good. Really good. So it's just one of those situations where he only played half the snaps. He drew a target on 32% of what he played. That's ridiculous. That's completely absurd that you could only play half the snaps, run around on 76% of them, and draw a target. Almost, that's functionally like a third of the time you were on the field, you were targeted. That doesn't make any sense.
Definitely seems like Love is getting some chemistry with him, so that's
it's
going to make
weird.
him valuable going forward.
It's weird, and he's available in 85% of leagues. I'd like to get him now for $1 while it's still $1.
Yeah.
And there's certain people you can cut, for example, like Donovan Peoples-Jones is completely cuttable.
God. Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of people out there that are being rostered that are just completely cuttable. And I'd much rather take a look at a Jaden Reed. And then my last one before we move on to tight end and then try to wrap up the show, actually, is last name for what Tank Dell. And it's very similar to what I was just discussing. He didn't play as many routes as what you would like, but he led the team with a 22% target share. I just want to point that out, that anybody who gets a 22% target share for their respective team is automatically rostered in fantasy football. Automatically. I don't need to know anything past that. If you get 22% of your team's targets, you're rostered in fantasy football. It automatically qualifies him as a wide receiver 3. I understand he's 5'8". I understand he weighs what I weigh. He weighs like 175 pounds on his best day. And for the record, I'm 6'2". like that. I get all that. The Texans are going to have to throw a million times because they're going to be down and losing in every single game all year. It's going to be ugly as hell. For the love of God, don't watch the games. But Tank Dell, if you get 20, Lance, do you disagree with anything I'm saying? If you get 22% of the targets on your team, you need to be rostered in fantasy.
No, absolutely. And I mean, CJ Stroud, he threw for 300. He almost threw for 400 yards this past week. I mean, their game script is going to favor, they're going to throw. They're going to need guys aside from Nico Collins, Robert Woods to get the ball. Tank Dell's going to cut into that workload. He's going to work his way up the depth chart. He's going to get more snaps and he's going to continue to get the ball. I mean, I'm pretty sure that was a CJ Stroud pick. After they picked him, they said, "Who do you like?"
Yeah,
And he said Tank Dell.
give me the
So
little guy.
there's a good chance the guy who wanted to draft this guy is going to want to throw his way. So I definitely am all for going in on Tank Dell. I mean,
Reason I bring it up is because Tank Dell is available in 95% of leagues.
yeah,
So
get him while he's cheap.
there you go. Get it now or cry about it forever. And then we're gonna do the final position here, which is tight end.
Everyone's
And I
favorite.
know Chuck had to leave, but I'll do his question anyway. How much are you buying into Hunter Henry? Would you drop Laporta for him? I probably wouldn't drop Laporta for him, but I am buying into Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry would be the number one tight end claim again this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I would drop Laporta for him because that's kind of like dropping the same guy. That's not helping.
I feel Henry has a bigger upside, but yeah, they're about in that's it. If you have one, just leave it alone. Don't
I'd probably just
overthink it.
roster
Don't
Laporta.
tinker. Yeah, if you already have Laporta, leave it
I
alone.
probably wouldn't blow my fab budget to then acquire Hunter Henry. But that being said, I do think Hunter Henry will be the will be the number one tight end claim. And then I don't really have too many other ones in the background for waiver wire. My number two choice would be Hayden Hurst,
Mm-hmm.
widely available. Panthers need a safety blanket.
If he's out there.
Third. Oh, he's out there. He's available in like 80% of leagues. No one wants Hayden Hurst. Which is weird to me. It's weird to me that that's the way it is, but that's the truth. And then the final one is my third one would be Taysom Hill, based on the idea only that now no one's going to play running back for that team, so it's probably going to be Taysom Hill, and they'll list him as a tight end, so I can start a running back at tight end. Seems like a good
You do a
idea.
little cheating.
Yeah, I can cheat a little bit. Hey, they're going to let me cheat. I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of it. And then my final dark horse, scraping the bottom of the barrel, YOLO, type of deal, is Zach Ertz.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I will tell you why. It's because Zach Ertz has 18 targets in 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's dumb. That's dumb. That's a stupid amount of targets. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
No, especially when they're going to be throwing at the entire. I mean, like we just talked about with the Texans, the game script is going to favor them throwing it. He's the best receiving option they got. Whoever's going to be throwing him the ball isn't going to want to be airing it out, so they're going to want to throw it short, get a cheap completion over the middle. Zach Ertz has made a career out of doing that. So yeah, if Zach Ertz is available, absolutely go out and get him. If Luke Musgrave is out there, might not be a bad idea to try to get him. I mean,
I can't do that.
can't talk yourself into
I
it.
don't want Luke Musgrave.
Yeah.
Coming off that 4, I get that he had a decent week the first week, but I can't talk myself into that. I know, but you're not on an island. A lot of people like themselves some Luke Musgrave. I'm unconvinced at this time. I need to see more.
Yeah, no, I mean he's building his rapport with Jordan Love, and his Love continues to look solid. I mean, I'm gonna buy into more pieces of that offense if it looks sustainable. Like you said, Jalen Reed, Luke Musgrave, if guys are gonna get snaps in that offense, I'm definitely gonna be interested in it, especially at a position as thin as tight end.
Yeah, because in reality, tight end is, I mean, you got Kelsey, and then a tier. Andrews, Hawkinson, Waller.
Kittle.
No, not anymore. Kittle doesn't get the volume when all three of those people are healthy. Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo with CMC now in there. Kittle's volume drops. That becomes the issue with Kittle, and I'll tell you exactly what I mean. Kittle has 9 targets in 2 weeks, and he has caught 6 of them. That's just not good enough. It's just not enough. Considering the idea that Brandon Ayuk has more targets than that in one game, and
Ayuk went
it's not
off
even the good.
against
I'm
Patrick
not even talking about
Peterson.
that game. I'm talking about the game where he got hurt. He had more targets
Yeah.
than Kittle had all season, aka last Sunday. This is my point: is that when all of these people are healthy, CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, when they're all healthy, Kittle gets left in the cold. It's just the way it goes. They use him to block. They don't. They
He's
need
too
him.
good of a blocker,
They use him to
honestly.
block. They don't need him running routes. He gets some. He gets a little bit of look. Certain certain series, but he's not consistently you know getting the volume that he used to get. Uh, no, it's actually like it's more along the lines of come on, there you go. It's Kelsey tier, Mark Andrews, Hawkinson, Waller tier, Goddard, uh, Ingram, then Kittle, probably tier, and then you're down to Freiermuth, Laporta, Njoku, Henry, Higbee, Pitts, Kincaid. You see what I'm saying? So once you get past like Kittle,
You're rolling the dice.
yeah, like once you get past like, and even Kittle is a dice roll. So I'm telling you, like, there's like 5, 6, 10 guys a week if you're lucky at tight end that you feel good about. Everything else is a dice roll crapshoot. So it's like these quote unquote big name tight ends that are going to hit the wire in your guillotine league, unless it is Kittle. I'm doing it. Unless it is Kelsey, we'll start with a K. Unless it
Yep.
is Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, I don't care. I'll let someone else spend $1 million to pull that in and blow their fab budget. And you want to know what I'll do? I'll keep streaming tight end all season until we get to like week 13, and then I'll blow my money on a big name tight end because one of them will probably be available. That's kind
Yeah.
of how I deal with it.
For me, that's one of those positions. It's so frustrating to stream just because you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, but
And
nobody knows what they're going to get, which is why it's like,
if you can get one of those from the higher up tier, you're sitting a little bit better than if you're trying to stream week to week and
it
then you
depends
have
on
to
what the
deal.
opportunity cost of doing that is, though.
I mean, yeah, if you're gonna go throw all your fab at it, yeah, definitely
Yeah, if
not
you're
a
going to
good
go
idea.
spend a ton of your fab money on it, it's
Yeah,
probably not worth it. That's kind of my
no.
point. Is like everything in life has an opportunity cost. The cost of doing any action leaves other actions on the table. So it's like if you're going to blow all your money on that, what future action are you pigeonholing yourself out of being able to do later? I get the general theory, Lance. I truly do, and I know some people who like to play that way, and you're not wrong. It's just it's a philosophy difference. I'd rather be in the bucket of everybody having to stream because everybody has to stream and nobody has an advantage over the guy who has the good tight end, which is nice, but is probably weaker at every other position because they had to give up the opportunity cost to do it, or they had to blow a ton of fab budget in the case of the guillotine league. So it's it is what it is. But is there anybody that you want to pound the table for here? Like, does Jake Ferguson do anything for you, given
Good
that it's the
God, no.
Cowboys tight end? Okay. Okay. Jake Ferguson's a
um,
popular one, so I'm throwing it out there.
you know, Good
While you're
golly.
looking, stay the hell away from Kyle Pitts. If
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts got chopped in your league, let someone else have it. You don't want it.
No,
It's
don't.
not
I
worth the
mean,
headache.
Arthur Smith comes from Mike Vrabel, who comes from Bill Belichick, who is notorious for hating fantasy. Don't fall into that
Arthur
trap
Smith
of
is
a
an idiot.
coach who hates
It's
fantasy.
Arthur
He's
Smith is
not
an
going to help
idiot. There
you.
you go. Like,
He's not going to use Kyle Pitts. It's not going to happen anytime in the near future. So yeah, don't buy into it. This is it's a crapshoot, and if you are looking for someone to stream this week, I would. Logan Thomas is someone who, that Washington offense is looking a little bit better. He's done well for fantasy
I
managers in
don't
the
know if
past.
Logan Thomas is
Maybe,
playing, man. He got whacked in the
yeah,
noggin.
he did. He did, but on the chance that he plays, I mean, I think he could still fill at least a serviceable role because the next name I'm going after him is Tyler Conklin. I mean, you got Zach Wilson throwing the ball. He's gonna want to throw to Garrett Wilson or throw it short. Tyler Conklin's he was slow and steady last year, and I think he'll do that this year. I don't think he's gonna be top half a tight end any given week, but I think he'll at least save you from getting a zero at that position and getting chopped because
He
of
might
that
do that.
position.
He might do that. That's an interesting one because he's flirted with fantasy relevance many times in the past and just can never seem to keep a hold on it.
Oh yeah.
He's the opposite of Taysom Hill, where Taysom Hill, you might get a 40 or you might get a 0.
Yep.
It's entirely anything is possible. Whereas Tyler Conklin, you're probably almost guaranteed to get a 4, but no more than a 6.
Yeah, you might get
That's
a 4 or a 4.2. Like
that's
that's
kind of where you're at. Uh,
but better than
it
a
just
zero.
depends on it just depends on what you kind of need. If you think
Hmm.
you're going to get blasted and you want to try and get Taysom Hill, that's kind of one of the ones that I think is weirdly sexy for this week, largely because they're just not going to have any running backs. So I think they're going to let him play running back for a
Oh,
week or two.
yeah. No, they're gonna
That's
let him
why
do it.
he's on my list for that reason because it's like, well, I'm not really playing a tight end. I'm playing the Saints RB2 at the tight end position, which that sounds pretty good. Like I'd do that for a week or two and then throw him back on the pile when I don't need it anymore.
If
Uh,
your platform allows it, yeah, why not?
he's listed as a tight end in just about every format on every freaking uh, platform. So they're
There you
not going
go.
to change it for 2 weeks.
No,
So by the time they would be even thinking about changing it, Kamara will be back.
exactly.
So I would just do that, and he's widely available. But that pretty much takes us to the end of it, and I appreciate. We went a little long today, guys, because we got some good audience participation, which I appreciate in the background there. Because normally we try to keep this to about an hour. We went an hour and a half, but we're gonna wrap it up here and let everybody get on with their night. So, Lance, any final thoughts on the way out the door here?
Uh, Again, try to come back for try to snag some running back depth is really, I think, the key takeaway from this week is, running back's a volatile position. People are going to get hurt. Get your depth while you can early in the season because the well dries up really quick. And come week 8, you might not like the names you're looking at now. You're gonna like the names even less come week 8. So now while it's here.
Yeah, there's some of that. And then I'll just reiterate. I'll on my way out here. Uh, I'll just reiterate the idea that Rashid Shaheed should be rostered more than 40% of leagues. Y'all are crazy. Thank me later. Um, but with that, uh, as always, I'm Neil Smith at Nonsense Under Neil. Check us out on our Discord at importantnonsense.com. Get registered, become a member, get access to our platform. That way we'll answer your questions at any point you want on the Discord. That's really what it's there for. And then, Lance, where can the people find you, obviously, besides working with us?
Find me on Twitter at LancerOX13. be tweeting about fantasy football, pounding the table,
until they
yelling at
start
the
charging them
crowd.
for it, and then we'll have to go figure out where to go live next.
Yeah, if they charge you for it, I'll let you know later.
Yeah,
If
we'll
that's
all have
if
we'll
that's
all
the
have new
case.
handles. Don't worry, we'll all have new handles.
Yeah,
We'll all be on I don't know, MySpace, I guess.
bring
We'll
it
go back
back.
to being
Bring
we'll
it
go
all the
back to
way
being
back.
friends with Tom. Yeah, we'll go back in time. It's gonna be great. All right. Well, we'll catch you next Tuesday, and obviously I'll catch you all on Thursday for Roster the People. But until then, keep up the nonsense and have a week.